Hi there, Misfits. This is Kate.
And this is Kevin's roommate, Spencer.
Welcome to Horrorwood. Welcome, Spencer. Welcome to the crime closet.
Yeah, wow. It's like really crazy to be here.
Thank you for being here.
It's a real closet.
It is my closet.
It has lots of clothes.
Great sound dampening. Kevin, if you listened to last week's episode, you might know that he is on a work trip right now, which he was supposed to be back today, and they extended it. So he is out of town. But we have his lovely roommate, Spencer, who I know Kevin has mentioned on this show before, joining us today. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Do you have any stories about Kevin you want to tell us?
Oh, my God. That's who.
I mean, he's not here.
We might be here all day. Well, I wonder if he would listen to it even.
I'm hoping that he's listening to this right now on his flight back. That's my hope.
Yeah.
Kevin, you better be listening to this.
I love Kevin. He's he's one of my best friends, even though I feel like when he does talk about me on here, it's not always the most pleasant. But I think that's also just me being too sensitive.
I will say, I want to read you the text that he sent. Because he told me, he suggested you to guest co-host when he told me he wasn't going to be back in time. And I was like, yeah, do you think he would be a good fit? If so, I'll totally ask him. And he wrote, yeah, I think he would be. He used to do a ton of improv and he's pretty funny and engaging.
Oh.
Verbatim, direct quote from Kevin Corbett.
That's probably the nicest thing he's ever said to anyone about me.
I almost texted him back. I was like, that's the nicest thing I've ever heard you say about him.
Wow. I mean, I know he's told you some things about me because I'm like, oh, did you tell Kate about that? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's fine.
No, he absolutely loves you.
You know what's funny is I actually lived on the same block before I moved in with Kevin.
Ah, okay.
So we met and he was in the apartment that we've been in together now for a while. Okay. And then about after a year and a half, something like that is when I moved in with him.
Nice.
2 years? Maybe it was.
Didn't you guys meet on Grindr or something?
It was not Grindr.
Okay, what was it? Wasn't it an app? A dating app?
It was.
And then you were like, yeah, we are not.
No, we're just friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. And you've been living together for many years since. Kevin, hopefully you forgive us for talking about you, and hopefully you enjoy this episode. And Spencer, I'm hoping you have not heard about this case, because I know that you are also very into the true crime, and you and Kevin both watch a lot of stuff. So, I mean, obviously the title is going to say what this is about, but I'm not going to tell you until we go a little bit into it.
Okay, I'm excited.
You're going to find out within the first sentence. So here we go. On the warm, sunny morning of Wednesday, July 5th, 1995, police officers in Santa Rosa, California responded to a call about a shooting at one Snoopy place, also known as the Charles M. Schulz headquarters, home of the world-famous comic strip Peanuts. Have you heard of this case?
I think I've heard about it, but I don't know a lot of details, so that's exciting.
Okay, well, you're about to find out all about it. Santa Rosa is located in Sonoma County, so think wine country, upscale neighborhoods, beautiful.
Kevin's paradise.
Wine country?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Charles Schulz was the town's most prominent citizen. Even the Sonoma County Airport is named after him. And the Schulz headquarters was a family-friendly place. Kids could go and visit the studios there. It was like a studio/office building. So for a shooting to take place was unthinkable at the time. There had been an incident, a pretty terrifying incident, a few years prior, back in 1988, when two masked gunmen entered Charles Schulz's home that he shared with his wife, Jean. The gunmen knew exactly who owned the home. Charles Schulz was the big man on campus. They knew he had a ton of money, and their plan was to kidnap Jean and hold her for ransom. However, while the gunmen were inside the house, Charles's daughter Jill drove up and the two men fled the scene. They were like, oh shit, who's this coming in? So they left. So although Schulz was aware that his wealth and notoriety could make him a target, nothing like this had ever happened at the headquarters before. Police were shocked when they responded to the scene. Officers were at the scene within minutes. It was just before 11 a.m. And when they arrived, they found a man lying face down outside in front of the building with what appeared to be 2 gunshot wounds to his back. He had lost a lot of blood and was not moving. There were also several Schulz employees standing outside near the man. Officer Amanda Pelkey, which hopefully I'm saying that right, noted that normally in these situations, there's chaos. People are running, they're screaming, there's usually a lot of hysteria.
Are you sure?
I mean,
it sounds like a peaceful day at the park to me.
Right?
Really.
Just your run-of-the-mill office shooting. But what stood out to her is that everyone outside was completely quiet, like eerily quiet. They were expressionless, which she attributed to shock because people are just kind of like frozen there. Like, what the fuck just happened?
Especially it was like 1995, not 2005.
Exactly. It's not like office shootings were so common then, or mass shootings or anything like that. And especially in a very upscale, wealthy community at the Schulz headquarters, like this is the last thing you would think would happen. The employees were able to identify the victim as 53-year-old Ronald Nelson, Charles Schulz's business manager and right-hand man. So a prominent person in the Schulz organization. But none of these employees had heard or seen anything, or at least that's what they said. And according to an article in sfgate.com or sanfranciscogate.com, the receptionist is the only one who heard the gunshots, and she's the one who called the police.
This is outside, right?
They found him outside. Yes.
Okay, because I'm like, how did they not see anything?
Right.
But maybe if he's like going in, like, well, I guess.
Well, as you're going to find out, he was not going in.
Okay.
So it is odd that like no one except the receptionist saw anything. Ron's office was pretty close to the receptionist's desk, like kind of right next to it. So I could see if this happened, he's the first one that they get to, and so he runs out, and the receptionist is the one to see it. Possibly.
Do you think they were close?
Who?
Him and the receptionist. Like, do you think they were friends if his office was like right there?
I don't know about him and the receptionist.
I mean, maybe they just like.
But they knew each other.
Like, I hope they usually said hello to each other every day.
Because it wasn't like a ton of employees. Like, it's a big organization, but it's not like a huge, like 500 employees in this building. So everyone did know each other. So yeah, they probably were friendly for sure.
Good.
As medics attended to Ron, officers entered the building to search for more victims and possibly find the shooter. And they have no idea what they're walking into because all they got from the employees outside was Ron's name. So they didn't have anything else to go on. They don't know if the shooter was still inside, if there are more victims, if Ron was targeted because of his position in the company.
Right, yeah.
So they entered the building with guns drawn. And unfortunately, they did find another victim. A 65-year-old woman identified as Shirley Nelson, Ron's wife, was found lying on the floor in a back office with a gunshot wound to her chest. Charles Schulz was there working in his office when the shootings occurred, but stated he never heard the gunshots. His office was at the other end of the building.
Okay, so he was probably less close to the receptionist.
You're very concerned about the receptionist.
I am. I just hope she's okay.
I think she's doing okay.
If she was the only person who saw anything, maybe she was really traumatized.
I'm sure she was traumatized. It's pretty scary. But I think she's probably okay. And unfortunately, in everything I read, like, I don't have her name. So,
well, see, there you go. The patriarchy wins again.
Damn it. Although he didn't see or hear anything, Charles Schulz would become a key witness in the trial that followed. Because, yes, the shooter was caught. While awaiting trial, the judge originally set the defendant's bail at $750,000, but revoked it days later due to concerns that this person could still be a danger to society. The judge then upped the bail to $2 million, thinking no one's ever going to be able to pay that.
Wow.
But someone did. And that someone was Charles Schulz.
No.
Mm-hmm. But I'm getting ahead of myself, so let's
plot twist.
back up
okay,
and talk about the gunshot victims.
Yeah.
Shirley Ann Nelson was born on January 18th, 1930 in Pennsylvania. I've seen her maiden name listed as both DeLong and as Spencer, so I'm not sure.
Wait, I'm
which
sorry. Did I hear that correctly?
You sure did.
Wow.
So are you related?
Maybe.
So I'm not sure which is correct. She loved sports, she loved animals, and according to her granddaughter, she liked taking care of others. She liked people. There's not a ton known about her childhood, unfortunately. Donnell May, a friend of hers, said that Shirley never really talked about her family or her childhood. She did have a brother, but he never came up in conversation. So I'm not sure if there was something from her past she wanted to keep in the past, or if she just wasn't all that close to her family. She did, however, dream of falling in love, getting married, and having children, raising her own family.
Yeah.
She really, really wanted to be a mom. And she wanted that traditional family life. She didn't really have a lot of aspirations when it came to career. I think her ideal situation was to be a stay-at-home mom, which is not an easy thing to do. So more power to her.
Yeah, especially back then.
Yeah. She met her first husband when she was pretty young. I don't know the exact age, but it's safe to say she was in her late teens, early 20s. So she's thinking, this is it. I found my Prince Charming. I'm going to start a family. They wasted no time trying to get pregnant. He was Catholic and
well, there you go.
Right. And his family expected him and Shirley to have lots and lots of babies. So the newlyweds were like, we better get started. Yeah. They literally were trying every month, but each month passed without Shirley getting pregnant.
That's rough.
Yeah. They were on this emotional roller coaster because they'd feel like, okay, I think we did it this time. I think there's a chance. Only to be disappointed when they were unsuccessful.
I'm curious, like, if she had suffered any miscarriages, maybe, if they did think that they were like close, maybe, and I don't know. It just happens a lot, but you didn't talk about it back then.
Right. If she did have a miscarriage, I didn't see it reported anywhere. And this went on for a while, like, well, it didn't happen this month, maybe next month. But despite their attempts, Shirley was unable to conceive. She found out she could not have children. This was a devastating blow to her because the only thing she wanted in life was to raise a family of her own.
No, that's really sad.
Yeah. Her husband and her super Catholic family did not help matters. They were not supportive at all. Here she is. She's young, a newlywed, going through this very emotional journey. And her in-laws are like, why aren't you giving us grandkids?
Because pressure me to do that, please.
Exactly, because that's going to help.
That's...
They were pretty cruel to her, which it's like, it's not her fault that she can't have kids. This led to her and her husband getting an annulment. He said, if you can't give me kids, then I don't want this marriage.
That's awful.
Yeah, it's really sad. So Shirley found herself single again, but not for long. In 1954, when she was 24 years old, she married again. Her second husband already had 2 kids from a previous relationship, so Shirley was thrilled. She now had 2 stepchildren that she adored. She doted on them, and it seemed like she was finally going to have that happily ever after. Her stepkids eventually grew up and started having kids of their own, so Shirley became a grandma. Shirley's second marriage lasted about 12 years, according to her granddaughter, Amy. Amy said she doesn't know a lot about their relationship or why the marriage ended, but once again, Shirley was devastated. She's now around 36 years old. Her picture-perfect family image is shattered, though reportedly she did stay close with her stepchildren and their families throughout her life. So that's
sweet.
That's good. And because she's dedicated her entire adult life to her marriage and raising a family, she hasn't spent any time developing any job skills outside the home. She's been a stay-at-home mom. Her husband earned all the money. So she was struggling at this point. It was a lot to adjust to. She's single. She's now got to figure out what her relationship to her stepkids and grandkids is going to be. And she's got to find a way to make some money.
OnlyFans.
If only it existed then. Shirley, Spencer has a plan for you.
Do you know how many people have been like, well, why don't you just do like an OnlyFeet account? And I'm like, I don't know what that is.
Wait.
I think they're trying to be funny.
Is there an OnlyFeet.com?
I don't know. I honestly do not know. If someone can tell you, then...
Well, I'm about to tell you because I'm going to try it. I'm going to type it in right now. OnlyFeet.com. I'm probably going to end up on like some dark web.
God.
The domain is registered.
Oh, wow.
But may still be available.
Okay.
Okay.
Right, well,
so someone's holding on to that.
good for them.
I mean, hopefully they can make some money off of it. In a documentary I watched about this case, some describe her as a woman who's always building her life around a man.
Sounds like it.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with wanting marriage and family, but when that's your only focus and you don't give yourself anything outside of that, you tend to lose yourself, I think. And you become dependent on that relationship, which leads to trouble if that relationship ends.
I mean, I wouldn't know, but yeah, it sounds bad.
It's bad. So this becomes a pattern for Shirley. First marriage, got married young. Quickly after that ended, she was in another marriage. After her second marriage ended in 1966, Shirley wasn't planning to just sit around and brood. She was living in Minneapolis at this time, and one night she and several friends went out for a girls' night. And it was at the bar where she and her friends went to that Shirley met 24-year-old Ronald Allen Nelson. Ron Nelson had just graduated and gotten his CPA license. He was young and attractive, and he and Shirley started chatting.
So was she a cougar, technically?
I mean, I guess you would label her that if that was like a thing then.
I think that if you've had 2 divorces at that time, when that was maybe like not...
Yeah, when it wasn't like, okay.
As, you know,
well, the first one was an annulment because, again, he was Catholic, so I think
right.
they were anti-divorce.
If she had an annulment and a divorce, I feel like that should like count as like a badge of honor toward being a cougar, even if she was only like, how old is she at this point?
36.
36?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
She's young. She's 36. And he's younger. And she was okay with that.
Good for her.
Yeah.
Good for her. I have some friends with an age difference that's not that big. It's a little shorter, but she's always saying like, oh, I'm just so old, and calls herself a cougar. And I just think it's funny. And she's only like in her mid 40s now.
Oh my goodness.
And he's about to turn 40 or did turn 40.
Well,
I don't know.
That's
like, it's really not a big difference.
That's not a difference.
But she's always like, well, back before he was born. And I'm
oh
like,
my
God, you don't know what you're talking about. I mean, maybe she does, but I don't think so.
So despite the fact that Shirley was 12 years older than Ron, they really hit it off. The age difference didn't seem to bother either one of them. Shirley took really good care of herself. She always dressed nice, and she looked younger than her age. Not that 36 is old by any stretch.
But think about like the Golden Girls.
Right?
You know.
36, obviously, we would not consider that old, but it is older than 24. To Ron, Shirley was the hottest thing. He loved taking her out and showing her off. He was like, hey, check out my lady over here. Like, they were into it. Things progressed quickly in the relationship, which is not unusual for Shirley, as we've seen. So when it started getting serious, she said to Ron, look, you need to know that I can't have children. So if that's a deal breaker for you, tell me now so we don't waste our time. Because she didn't want to have a repeat of her first marriage.
Sure.
So she was upfront with him about it. And he told her, that's okay. It's you that I want. He was really understanding and assured her that kids or no kids, he was in it for her. So after less than a year of dating, Ron and Shirley were married in 1967.
Aww.
Around this same time, Charles Schulz and his Peanuts comic strip were taking off in a big way, thanks in part to a little animated film called A Charlie Brown Christmas, which came out in 1965 and won the Emmy for Outstanding Children's Program at the Primetime Emmys the following year.
Can I just say that Kevin makes me watch that every Christmas?
As he should, because it's a fucking great film.
It's like, no, I love it. Like, but there's that and then like 4 other things he makes me watch.
Good.
So
I'm glad for it. That's
I'm
a good
complaining.
roommate.
I'm not complaining.
I do love the Charlie Brown.
No, it's a classic.
Christmas. And that was followed by It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, in 1966, which is also a can't miss film at Halloween.
Another one that Kevin is obsessed with.
As he should be, rightfully so. It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown didn't win an Emmy, but it was nominated for 3 Primetime Emmys in 1967.
You know, some people say the nomination is just as good as winning.
I mean, he was already on the map, but that kind of skyrocketed him. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah.
1966 was a pivotal year for Schulz. Not only did he win the Emmy for A Charlie Brown Christmas, but that same year, his father died while he was visiting Charles in California.
Oh.
Not only that, Charles's studio, which at the time was located in Sebastopol, California, was completely destroyed in a fire.
Oh, that I did not know about.
Yeah,
that's
so
crazy.
He won his first Emmy, but lost his dad and his studio all in the same year.
That's like very Scarlett O'Hara to me. Just how dramatic can you be?
It's a lot. Soon, Charles Schulz built a new studio, this time in Santa Rosa, and it was here that he would work for the rest of his life. Schulz was actually born in Minneapolis and grew up in St. Paul, but as an adult, he moved with his wife and kids back to Minneapolis and basically ran the comic strip out of his home. Or sometimes he'd rent out office space, but he did this for years before finally moving out to California in the late 50s. As the popularity of Peanuts grew, so did the business operations. The merchandising deals and marketing for the brand were a vast undertaking. By the mid-1960s, Peanuts had become a worldwide success. But personally, Charles Schulz was going through it. His marriage was in shambles because he cheated on his wife with a woman half his age. And in 1972, he and his wife divorced. He bounced back quickly, though. The following year, he got married again to a different woman, not the woman he cheated with.
Oh.
So he had a lot going on.
So was it worth it, Mr. Schulz?
You do wonder. And he realized he couldn't handle the company on his own. He needed a business manager. This was a highly coveted position, and Ron Nelson was the lucky man who landed the job. Even though Schulz originally started out in Minneapolis, which is where Ron and Shirley are located, he needed Ron out in Santa Rosa at his studio. The opportunity was too good to pass up. Like, you don't turn down being Charles Schulz's right-hand man. So he and Shirley packed up and headed to California. Ron's official title was Vice President of Creative Associates. So
fancy.
Very high class.
Yeah.
He was in charge of the licensing agreements throughout the world. And if you're old enough to remember all the merchandise that had the Peanuts characters on it, lunchboxes, the Snoopy snow cone maker, which was insanely popular. There was a lot of stuff. So we're talking money, money, money. And Ron was making loads of it.
That must be nice.
Yeah.
Wow. I wonder what that's like.
Yeah, I wonder what that feels like.
I wonder how many people are going to be like, well, get a job, loser. And they're not wrong, but anyway.
The Nelsons' lives changed pretty much overnight. They moved into the Santa Rosa Golf and Country Club. They lived right there on the golf course, very upscale, very chic. They both enjoyed playing golf, and at the end of each day, they'd take their golf cart out to the course, they'd bring their little dog, and that was like their way of winding down for the evening. They also played in golf tournaments, like it was their thing. Have you ever played golf? Are you a golfer?
You know, it's funny you ask.
Is it?
I had a brief period of time where I thought I wanted to play golf and tennis, probably because I was trying to look more affluent than I actually am.
Wait, how old were you?
I was like in high school.
I love that you're in high school and you're like, I need to look up a class.
It might have been middle school. It might have been like my 8th grade or
even better.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. And my mom was like, well, here, I'll get you like she got me like merch from the high school of like, you know, the golf team and the tennis team.
The golf
and, like,
merch.
Bought me like some rackets. And I mean, they weren't like crazy expensive
Sure.
or anything. It was just like, here, so you can play. And like, I definitely tried. I was on a golf course once just taking photos of my friends. Like I was in a photography class in college.
Oh, okay.
And so I just thought that could be interesting because there's, you know, cool poses and, well, I don't know if they're cool, but
a little fast and loose with the word cool, but okay.
Interesting poses,
sure.
I would say, in golf. That's my long-winded tangent about if I have ever played golf or if I like golf or not. I don't remember which way you actually phrased the question.
Well, I think the answer is no. When they weren't out on the course, they were known to host dinner parties. They were very sociable within the community, and this is an elite community. They attended fundraisers, probably hosted some as well. They loved to travel and would go on lavish vacations. It was really a dream life. And Ron was becoming a bit of a celebrity in the town. If Charles Schulz is the town hero, the big star, and Ron is his go-to guy, Ron is going to get to ride those coattails. Which is not to say that Ron didn't work hard. He absolutely did. He wasn't just skating by. He played a big role in the company, and he did it well. Shirley did not work. At this point, she didn't really need to. She was a homemaker. She kept the house, cooked the meals, always had dinner ready for Ron when he came home from work, and she loved that role. Like, that's kind of what she had always desired, and she really embraced it. And they were close friends with Charles Schulz and his wife, Jean. The couples were known to hang out together outside of work. So dream life for the both of them.
Adorable.
But in 1991, when Shirley was 61 years old, she suffered a stroke. She made a full recovery. She didn't have any physical signs that she'd had a stroke, but it was kind of a wake-up call for both her and Ron. Shirley was starting to feel her age a bit, and Ron, who was 49 at the time of Shirley's stroke, was starting to view her differently.
Oh, no.
Yeah. The age difference had never bothered him before, but now he's like, oh, I don't think I like this whole aging thing she's got going on.
You're an imperfect human being just like the rest of us.
Apparently the whole in sickness and in health thing kind of slipped his mind. And unfortunately, Ron started to pull away from the relationship. Shirley was heartbroken, obviously. She loved Ron. They'd been together about 25 years at this point. This was her partner in life who vowed to stand by her no matter what.
By then, you're thinking third time's the charm.
Exactly. And, I mean, they've already been together for so long, so it's just like you've grown together already in a way. So why doesn't that, like, why does this one thing...
What about this suddenly is not working for
Exactly.
you that you can't get over yourself?
Yeah.
And just follow... I mean, people change and you're allowed to. That also just sounds horrible for her, especially... I mean, even if she had a good recovery from the sounds of it, like... Just going through that, and especially if you've had a stroke, you're more likely to have another one. And so, I mean, I'm sure she was terrified. And
yeah, it's a scary thing. And the one person that you want to lean on would be your significant other.
Right.
And if that person is suddenly like, oh, I don't know.
If you're Kevin, it would be Shmeoween. He would be worried about her.
That's
or
true.
Like, yeah.
He would not be worried about Sarah Jessica Parker. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, what?
Sorry.
What did you just say?
I'm just saying what Kevin would be thinking.
No, Kevin loves Sarah Jessica Parker.
So Shirley starts trying to dress a little nicer. She'd always been well dressed, but now she's trying to fancy it up a bit. She starts working out with a personal trainer. She's trying to lose weight. Not that she was overweight to begin with. Friends said she was doing everything in her power to get the relationship back to what it had been before her stroke, which, of course, the issue was not with her. The couple did stay together, but the marriage was strained, to say the least. In May of 1995, the two celebrated their 28th wedding anniversary. But around that same time, Ron confided in his boss, Charles Schulz, that he was having an affair with his secretary, Eileen Christensen.
So I was almost close with the receptionist.
So the receptionist is not Eileen.
She's not the one, but I was smelling in the right direction.
You were.
Ugh, I hate to be right.
Whereas Shirley was 12 years older than Ron, Eileen was 12 years younger.
Oh, that is so hypocritical.
Isn't it weird?
That's
yeah.
gross.
At this point, Ron was 53, Eileen was 41.
I mean, personally, I don't think that age difference, I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Of course not.
But if you're like looking at your ailing wife.
If you're like, oh, you're too old, and then suddenly you're the older one, and you're like, well, this is fine. Yeah, it's fucked up.
Can I just say real quickly, I'm just like, what is going to happen? Like, I'm
good.
Intrigued now.
Okay, good.
Because I again, like, I know that I've like heard of this, but never like the intimate details. So,
well, hopefully I can keep you guessing.
Yeah.
Schulz told Ron, you've got to break it off with Eileen. And remember, Schulz had had his own affair years prior. But actually, that didn't have an effect on why he told Ron he had to break it off. Schulz was less concerned about the effect the affair would have on Shirley and more about how it would affect his empire.
Sure. Yeah.
Schulz was worried that the affair would not end well, and because they usually don't, and the company could be hit with a sexual harassment lawsuit.
I just had to remind myself that this is the 90s, not the 60s.
Yeah, now we're in the 90s.
I'm sure it was still not great then, but it's like, were they, I mean, before Me Too, was anyone really taking sexual harassment and like HR seriously?
I would imagine. I mean, it's not a great look for a children's cartoon company to get hit with sexual harassment. And so I think that threat was looming or, it's definitely there.
As a 5-year-old, I probably wouldn't have minded, but I also wouldn't have understood.
Exactly. But the parents of that 5-year-old
are going to
Spencer
be thinking like,
let's watch something else.
This isn't like the image that we want. Okay.
Schulz told Ron and Eileen, if you don't end this, I'm terminating you both. But they didn't end it. Just a few weeks after their 28th wedding anniversary, Ron admitted to Shirley that he was having an affair, which, of course, devastated her.
Okay, thank you for the honesty, I guess. Maybe.
I think it's better to be honest, but maybe could you have just done that before you went and slept with her? Maybe come to me and tell me that you're struggling with these thoughts or you're attracted.
There's a better way to go about it for sure.
Shirley knew Eileen. She knew that whole office. And just the thought that while she's at home cooking the meals, trying to keep up her appearance and catering to Ron's needs, he's going to work every day with the woman he was cheating on her with. She knew things in the marriage weren't great, but she never expected him to be having an affair.
Did she know who he was having the affair with?
Yeah.
Okay.
He told her, yeah.
Okay, so he was honest about that. Okay, oof.
Yeah. Her entire identity revolved around being Mrs. Ron Nelson, and she was determined to keep the marriage together. Initially, she felt like Ron was just going through a midlife crisis, that this thing with Eileen was temporary. It didn't help that Ron continued having sex with Shirley even after admitting his affair.
I'm so sorry. Can you repeat that?
Yeah. Ron continued having sex with Shirley even after admitting his affair.
Do you think he was honest about that, though? Or was he lying to her that it was continuing?
No, I'm saying he's sleeping with Eileen and Shirley at this point. He continued having sex with Shirley. And he's having sex with Eileen. He thinks he can have his cake and eat it too. And this gave Shirley hope because she's like, well, he's saying all these things to me because he was still very charming with her.
It's almost like he's leading her on.
Oh, he absolutely
is. Keep her manipulated to have what he wants. He's really not looking good.
He's not looking great here. Shirley told her friends, I can fix this, and even considered offering Eileen money and buying her a house if she would just end things with Ron.
Yes, please. Oh, my God.
I know. I think it'd be okay.
I mean, Kevin and I aren't in a relationship and never have been. But if someone was like, Spencer, I will buy you a house if you move out.
I think you'd be
probably
great.
Would. I'd be like, Kevin, do you just want to come with me? I mean, yeah.
And Kevin would probably be like, yeah, okay.
Is there AC? Do we have to pay for laundry? Because if the answer is yes and no, then
you're good.
I think we're good.
Yeah.
We're golden.
Shirley never actually got to the point where she made that offer to Eileen. It was just something she was thinking about and she told her friends about. But the affair continued. And that June, Ron moved out of the home he shared with Shirley. In his mind, he thought he and Shirley could remain friends, even though he cheated on her with someone she knew after almost 3 decades of marriage. He was just like, hey, yeah, let's be pals.
That's so weird.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
And still, like I said, he continued a sexual relationship with Shirley. His career has been threatened. His marriage is ruined. And yet he's still sleeping with both women.
Dude, look at your choices here.
On July 4th, both Ron and Shirley were out on the golf course. Ron had asked her to meet him there that day. But for him, he wasn't going there to have a friendly get-together with her. He was planning to tell Shirley that it was over for good. It's the 4th of July. Several people were out golfing that day, including Charles and Jean Schulz. When Ron told Shirley things between them were over, they got into a huge argument on the golf course. I think Shirley was trying to make her case for the two of them getting back together and telling him to leave Eileen.
Makes sense.
Yeah. But according to several witnesses, Ron just kept telling Shirley she wasn't good enough. Both Charles and Jean saw them, but could tell things were pretty heated between the two. So they kind of just kept their distance. They were like, yeah, maybe we'll just be over here. We don't need to play that hole. There are 17 others.
That's so awkward.
Yeah, very awkward.
That's triggering to think about.
Because, I mean, there's so many people just kind of watching and listening to this.
It's like whenever you see someone having a weird argumentative. I can't talk. Argue. But is it fashion? Yeah. Whenever people are having a little tiff in public, it's uncomfortable.
Yeah, because you're like, I kind of want to listen to this, but I shouldn't listen to this.
Or even and I've been on both sides of it. I'll be honest, in public and in private, and that's just always uncomfortable at the end of the day for anyone. Ron
told Shirley, "You're old. I found someone younger, and we're gonna have a life together. We want to have children."
No.
Yep.
Stop.
Mm-hmm.
He's terrible.
Yeah.
Oof.
This is probably the most hurtful thing that he could have said to her because, of course, she couldn't have kids. And now she's 65. Like, obviously, that time is long past.
That's just like adding salt.
And it's like they agreed before they got married that they were not going to have kids. She was very upfront with him. He was like, it's all good. I love you. I don't find not having kids. So sure, people can change their mind. Yeah. But at the same time, it's like telling her that was the most hurtful thing.
I just can't imagine there couldn't have been like a more diplomatic or like amicable way about doing this.
Well, he could have not cheated on her.
He could have like you said earlier, like, why not just tell her like, hey, this isn't working for me.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
just
hey, maybe we should see a counselor or something. Yeah. Or hey, like I think I'm having feelings for someone else and I think I need to separate, take myself out of this situation.
Yeah.
But he didn't do that. Which brings us back to where we started this episode. The next day, July 5th, is when both Ron and Shirley were found at the Peanuts headquarters with gunshot wounds. At least one of the bullets that struck Ron had gone through his pancreas, liver, and all the way up through his abdomen. He had wounds to his kidneys, lungs, intestines, and major arteries. He was not expected to survive. He'd already lost a lot of blood when paramedics arrived on the scene, and by the time they got him to the hospital, he didn't have a pulse and was pretty much DOA.
I was going to say, like, there's no way he survived that.
Shirley had been shot in the chest and was also not expected to survive, but amazingly, she was still conscious, like kind of hanging on, barely. So an officer rode with her in the ambulance to see if she'd be able to give them any information. And the officer asked her, "Can you tell me what happened?" And Shirley said, "I shot my husband. Is the son of a bitch dead? Did I kill him?"
Damn. Oh my God. I mean, I get it. You're hurting, but baby, no.
So that's kind of the feeling that all the residents of the town had. This was a controversial case. And it does make you feel some complicated feelings.
Was it worth killing him?
Never is.
That's
murder's never okay.
He could have just gotten the divorce, honey.
Exactly. It's bad. Shirley told the officer that after she shot Ron, she shot herself. She had intended to kill herself. And she just kept saying over and over, "Did I kill him? I hope he's dead."
I wonder if she was like in shock herself. Because if she was trying to kill herself, like she was ready to do that.
She was ready. Mm-hmm.
And then to like still be alive. Like,
yeah. She also mentioned she wished she'd killed Eileen too and was sorry she hadn't finished the job.
There it is.
Yeah.
There we go. Yikes.
By the time they reached the hospital, Shirley didn't have much of a pulse and had to be resuscitated. She needed extensive surgery to repair the damage caused from the gunshot, but she did survive. Oof. And so did Ron. Despite essentially having to be brought back to life, Ron survived the shooting.
Girl, I am so gagged right now. I really thought he was dead.
Both Ron and Shirley were interviewed by investigators while still in the hospital, so officers were able to get the full story of what went down. Just a few days after Ron moved out of the home in June, Shirley went to a gun shop called Montana Hawk and purchased a .357 Smith & Wesson revolver. But there was a 2-week waiting period while a background check was performed, so while she waited for that to clear, she took shooting lessons at an indoor gun range. She then took steps to get her financial affairs in order, and she wrote letters to several of her friends, including Charles Schulz, explaining what she planned to do and why, saying things like, "I cannot live without Ron, and I'm sorry to cause everyone so much pain, but I am in hell and must take Ron with me." When investigators searched Shirley's home, they found these letters, along with several of the Nelsons' wedding pictures that Shirley had laid out. So she'd just been like looking over these wedding photos and writing her goodbyes to friends. Oh. That's just sad.
Oh no, it was like consuming her.
Yeah. And keep in mind, this is all going on at the same time that she and Ron are still having a sexual relationship. She's already purchased the gun. This is a lot happening mentally. Their argument on the 4th of July was the breaking point for Shirley. Him telling her he wanted kids with Eileen was more than she could bear. On the 5th, she dressed in all black from head to toe and wore dark sunglasses. Then she rented a car to drive to one Snoopy place. she didn't want to drive up in her own car because she worried that anyone looking out the window would immediately know that it was her and that they would tell Ron, like, hey, Shirley's here.
Hey, look who's arrived.
She wanted to take him by surprise. So she pulls up to the front entrance and walks inside and asks the receptionist, is he in there? But before the receptionist could even answer, Shirley just walked right past her and into Ron's office. Because remember at the beginning I said his office was pretty much right next to there.
Yeah.
Ron looks up to see her, clearly sees she's holding a gun, so he immediately got up and tried to flee. Shirley said to him, you ruined my life, and started shooting. The gun contained 5 bullets. She shot 4 of them at Ron, hitting him twice in the back. She then used the final bullet on herself.
Yikes.
On July 6th, a day after the shooting, Santa Rosa Police Chief Ton Schweldhelm walked into Shirley's hospital room and placed her under arrest for attempted murder. She remained in the hospital for several days as she recovered from her injuries and also to undergo a psychiatric evaluation, obviously.
That sounds like a really great idea, just given the circumstances.
Mm-hmm. The psychiatrist who saw her determined that Shirley needed ongoing care and worried that she would try something like this again. So once she was released from the hospital, she was admitted to a mental health facility, and she was there for an undetermined amount of time. I'm not sure how long they kept her, but once they released her, she was put in county jail. The judge set her bail at $750,000, but both Ron and Eileen worried for their safety. Rightfully so, because they were like, if she's out, this is going to happen again.
Yeah, she's definitely coming back after one or both of them.
Yeah, especially after she said she wished she could have finished the job. So the judge revoked the bail. And after that, he didn't want to set a bail at all. But Shirley's defense attorney, Chris Andrian, argued that by law, she was entitled to bail. And the judge agreed. So he's like, all right, I'll set it at $2 million. No one's going to pay that because that was unheard of in Santa Rosa back then. But Charles Schulz did not think jail time would help Shirley. He said he loved her and was going to stand by her, so he posted the $2 million bail.
Oh, that is so touching. Like, I'm not on her side anymore, but also, like, cool.
I mean, it's again, complicated feelings. Like, it makes you feel a lot of things.
Yeah.
The case attracted a lot of media attention because of who was involved and where the crime had taken place, obviously. And Schultz's decision to post her bail was a huge controversy. Residents were divided, and they kind of turned against Ron with kind of like you were saying earlier. They felt like he should have ended his relationship with Shirley before starting one with Eileen. He's trying to have both women at once. And people felt that given the personal turmoil she had been facing, Shirley's mental health had declined to a point that she wasn't aware of the scope of her actions. But plenty of people get cheated on who don't go out and try to commit murder.
Yeah, I mean, I've been, like, very upset about things, but
you're not going to, like, go murder someone.
No.
Others argued that her stature and wealth allowed her special privileges. She wouldn't be out on bail if it weren't for her friendship with Schulz, which, I mean, that is true. And the media really harped on this, saying money talks, privilege walks. So this was a big case, but Charles Schulz stood by her, saying, I know Shirley, this is not who she is. She needs professional help. She doesn't need to be locked up in prison. Shirley's mental health became the main focus of her trial, which was held in April of 1996. She pled not guilty by reason of insanity. But prosecutor David Dunn argued that Shirley knew exactly what she was doing. She bought a gun. She took shooting lessons. She got her affairs in order. She wrote goodbye letters to her friends. She rented a car to try and disguise her arrival. That's premeditation, honey.
Like, exactly. Like, mentally unwell or not, that's
she planned it.
That you planned that out.
She planned it out for weeks because she had to wait for that background check to come through. She could have changed her mind, and she did not.
Wow, yeah. Okay.
Jean Schulz, Charles's wife, was called as a witness by the prosecution to discuss how Shirley had wanted to pay Eileen off to leave Ron alone. That shows she was thinking of ways to get Eileen out of the picture. Mm-hmm. But Charles Schulz took the stand for the defense, detailing Ron's admission of the affair. And the defense argued that it was the affair that sent Shirley's mental state into decline, which...
That's probably fair.
Yeah, I'd say it was. The jury could not agree on a verdict. And the trial ended with a hung jury with 9-3 in favor of acquittal.
Wow.
Most of them were on her side.
That's I did not see that coming.
Mm-hmm. They weren't saying what she did was okay, but they understood what led her to take that action.
That makes sense. But also, I don't know. I mean, we're not seeing all the evidence,
of
right?
Course.
But like...
But if they're arguing not guilty by reason of insanity, then I could see how they would come to that conclusion.
Yeah. The going to get lessons.
Exactly.
That is... I mean... Like, have you done that? It's not like it's not a normal thing to do that, to learn. But there's clearly some intentions behind her doing that.
Absolutely. And the thing was, she did not have a criminal background. Her background was squeaky clean.
And isn't that scary? Because then people don't even want background checks, like, not to get political, but like, you could have a flawless background and still, you know,
something like this. Yeah.
Just flip.
It's scary. Rather than attempt a retrial, which could have gone the exact same way as the first, prosecutors offered Shirley a plea deal the following year in April of 1997, which she accepted. Shirley pled guilty to attempted murder, which would make her eligible for probation. Charles Schulz wrote a letter to the court asking that she be put on probation rather than receive a prison term. And guess who else asked the court that she receive probation?
The woman that he was having the affair with?
Ron. Ron was like, yeah, she needs help. She does not need to be behind bars.
I actually forgot he lived. Like,
he survived.
Because I'm still just like, how?
Yeah, it was baffling to doctors because, like, literally his insides were just, like, ravaged. Like, just in shambles. Is ravaged the right word? Maybe.
I just imagine, like, he's, like, laying there on a gurney, I don't know, a medical table, and it's kind of like Play-Doh.
I mean, it's like
a
it's
game
like
of
literally.
Operation.
I was gonna say literally the game of Operation.
Yeah.
We're just like, let's see if this fits here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Shirley was sentenced to 1 year in jail, 5 years probation, and 3,000 hours of community service. She ended up only serving about 6 months behind bars before being released for attempted murder in the first degree.
Yikes. That's scary.
Yeah. While in jail, she got to know a lot of the other women there. And according to her granddaughter, Amy, those other women helped her to see that there was life on the other side of things. Amy said, quote, I really believe that those women helped Grandma to understand she could rebuild her life. She did her community service at the Santa Rosa Food Bank, and those who knew her all said that her jail time and community service really did change her as a person. She'd kind of been in this celebrity bubble for so long, most of her life. And during her time behind bars and at the food bank, it made her see people in a different way. After all was said and done, Shirley repeatedly said she regretted what she had done and was glad that Ron did not die.
Oh, good. Good.
Her defense attorney, Chris Andrian, remained close with Shirley the rest of her life, and he said she was heartbroken over what she had done, saying, quote, I don't know how that could have been me.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's, I'm like getting chills. Like, that's crazy.
Shortly after the shooting, Eileen, Ron's mistress, resigned from the Schulz company, and Schulz, true to his word, fired Ron, who still had not ended his relationship with Eileen.
Wait a minute. Did it take him that long to fire him?
No. This is shortly after the shooting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was like, damn. Like, what, was he waiting to find out what happened on, like, with the trial? Like,
no, this
okay.
was shortly after. Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. Ron and Eileen did end up getting married.
Ugh.
Shirley never remarried, but after serving her sentence, she dedicated her life to volunteer work and charities.
I thought you were going to say she decided to become a nun. She was like, I'm over this.
No, but I
I'm
wouldn't blame her, honestly.
He's the only man I can rely on.
She donated hundreds of thousands of dollars to charities, and people described her as, quote, one of the kindest, most charitable people they'd ever known who was willing to help anyone. Just a week and a half after her 78th birthday, Shirley died of colon cancer on January 30th, 2008. Oddly, she did not get an obituary, and the funeral home who handled her cremation were asked not to comment on her death. I don't know who made that request. I couldn't find it anywhere, but I just thought that was a little strange.
That's suspicious.
It's
to me.
definitely weird.
Like,
and honestly, it could have been her that made that request.
Yeah.
She could have like planned that ahead of time.
And like, but why? I wonder.
Maybe she felt like her conviction would come up and she wanted to put that behind her or something. I'm not really sure.
Maybe she didn't want to draw attention to what she had done. And like,
exactly.
And that was just another sign of like how remorseful she really was for having almost killed him.
And that's the story of what happened one day in July at the headquarters of Snoopy and Charlie Brown and the rest of the Peanuts gang.
Wow.
And doesn't it? It just makes you feel a lot of different ways.
It sounds like an episode of like Law and Order or something. You know what I mean? With just like the kind of twists and turns of it. Like, and that makes sense then too. If nobody saw it happening, like if it was just, her going in there and doing it herself, like sure, the receptionist would have been the only person to see anything.
Exactly.
You got me.
Okay, good.
You
I was hoping.
Me.
I was trying to take you on a journey, Spencer.
You sneaky little thing.
Okay, good.
Got me, gal.
Hopefully all of the listeners were on that journey with us.
They probably stopped listening because they're like, ooh,
I
want Kevin back.
No, I think you did an amazing job. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you.
Don't have affairs, people. Don't do murder. Don't do attempted murder because that's just as bad.
Yeah.
But do leave us a comment on Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube at
Horrorwood Podcast.
Or you can send us an email at
horrorwoodpodcast@gmail.com.
And if you're feeling a little generous and you want to hop on over to Patreon, you can do that at
patreon.com/horrorwoodpodcast.
Perfect, Spencer. Perfect. Thank you so much. Kevin, I know you're listening. I hope you like this episode. And Spencer said that he loves you.
I did not say that. Did I say that?
You did.
Did I say
at the beginning? You're like, I love Kevin.
Oh, well, I mean, I love things about him. He's the funniest person I know.
He said you were really funny.
Well, he said I was really funny, not the funniest person.
Well, that's true.
We're fighting now. He doesn't know it. I'm going to text him immediately.